This is a screenshot of a student's session using 11 plugins to make footsteps sound far away. Guess what? It sounded terrible! The problem wasn't their ears. The problem is the myth that sonic depth requires complexity. My name is Bastian Gerner. I'm a senior Foley artist. I've worked as a sound effects editor, sound designer, re-recording mixer, and I've created soundscapes for many movies and AAA games. Let me tell you this, you don't need 17, 30, 47 plugins to create sonic depth and realism. You just need 3 basic tools: volume, level automation or clip gain, high cut filter and filtering in general, and reverb and send level and preset automation. In this video, I'm showing you the exact system that I use with those 3 parameters in order to create sonic depth within my projects. You will understand when to use what and why this works. And if you pay close attention, you will notice one little mistake that I placed in the middle of the video, and I'm gonna reveal that mistake and correct it more towards the end of the video. Let's go. Here's what they don't tell you in audio school. You think you need the latest spatial processor with 49 parameters in order to get your mix right. And then you end up automating air absorption level, harmonization curve, saturation level. You use dynamic EQ and whatnot, stereo width and early reflection patterns. But in the end, the result is not there. Let me show you just a few plugins that I use on a daily basis in order to make Foley work and in general to make that sonic depth we're talking about. First of all, EQ. Then I use reverb, of course. Pitch shifting sometimes if I want more variation, iteration. Then I use RX decrackle to manage transients. And I use a subharmonic tool to make things more weighty and get more bass in it. And with that, you're already set and you don't need a lot of stuff. Therefore, if we want realistic depth within our mix, we need to control those same 3 parameters: level, high cut filter, send level of your reverb. Let me show you exactly how it works. Let's use a simple example. Me walking into my studio. In order to recreate that original scenario, let's record some footsteps. I will do 2 takes. The first one with linear energy, so that we can make the most use of our 3 parameters. And the second take will be a proper take where I already perform the distance into it. Let's go. Parameter 1, level. This is the most powerful tool you have at hand. If you get nothing out of this video, understand level creates distance, and even 0.2 dB make a difference and matter. Look here, the yellow track is our full-blown close-up recording from beginning to end. The copy of this is our orange track, and I adjusted the volume in 6 dB steps downwards the further we get away from the camera. Let's see if this works already. Only level. Here's why this works. Sound energy decreases with distance following the inverse square law. That means every time you double the distance from a sound source, the level drops approximately 6 dB. Look at this. Perfect 6 dB steps following the inverse square law. Technically correct, yet it sounds wrong. This is what I would actually do, a curve more like this one. Way smoother, and therefore it sounds more natural. Let's listen to that. Hear that difference? Your brain needs that clarity to understand the space because sounds are competing with each other. You have the dialogue, the music, the sound effects. The technical approach might be right on paper, but the musical approach is right for your ears. And your ears are what matters. Before we move on to the next parameter, high cut, I want to show you the difference between the first take that I recorded, which was full on close up beginning to end. You can see this here in the yellow waveform. And the second take where I performed the distance into the file already, which you can also hear in the green waveform. So let's listen to this. This helps in the mix later on so that people don't have to do a lot of work with the leveling, and that is also required from a real Foley artist. Air absorbs high frequencies. The farther away a sound travels, the more high end gets absorbed. This is called air absorption, and it is your second tool. Full frequency close-up recording, not yet with the volume automation, just the high cut on the yellow track here. Let's listen to that. Close sounds are dry. Distant sounds swim in room reflections. This is our third parameter, reverb. Here is the basic setup. The deverb that you can see here is inserted on an auxiliary track. I name it A ref. A is for auxiliary so that I can find it easily on a mixing desk. And this auxiliary has an input that is a bus called deverb. And this bus is being used as an output here on my sends on all those individual tracks. So I have this send installed on the full close-up, non-treated recording. And this is basically the fader that controls the level that I'm sending out into this reverb. And then this reverb gets mixed into the main master bus, therefore the whole overall mix. And this is why we have 100% wet here on the mix level on this plugin. So let's listen to the untreated, full-fledged close-up recording while I'm increasing the send level. But here's what matters. We're not using reverb to create space. We're using reverb send level to make use of an existing space. Think of it like that. The reverb itself is your room, and the send level is the amount of space your sound occupies within that room. Notice something? I didn't change pre-delay or decay and altered the space. I only used send level of our sounds to place them properly within the space. Here's the mistake that kills realism. It is using several reverb plugins on different sounds. Just use one reverb with one preset for each scene and then feed the sounds into this using the send level in order to place them correctly according to where they happen in the scene on screen. And this is true for linear media. In game audio, you have to program and automate all the parameters accordingly in your middleware to achieve the same result. Before we move on, finalizing our mix with all three parameters, let's clarify a little mistake that I placed at the beginning of the video. When we talked about the reverse square law, I then put those increments in place, but they are actually wrong because the law says after doubling the distance, the sound decreases -6 dB. And that is already from 1 to 2 meters, it's double. And here we have 3 meters before I reduce. So that is actually the correct curve. You have after 2 meters, -6, after 4 meters, another -6, and then -18 with 8 meters. And finally, we have -21 because it's only 4 meters that are left before I reach the studio. So let's listen to this correct according to the reverse square law result and decide if our ears agree with it or not. What do you say? My ears tell me, no way. The musical curve is still way better and way more natural, because here, to my ears, it decreases too quickly and then it's not right. Let's produce the final result using all three parameters. The take we're using is the green one here, the realistic performance, where I already put some decrease of volume into my performance. We further now adjusted that with a little clip gain automation, so making use of volume. Let's listen to this. Sounds pretty natural. I feel that in the distance when we hit the concrete, it feels still a bit close. So let's continue with the high cut. Oh, I was kind of slipping away with the mouse, so therefore this wasn't the right take. Let's do it again. Yeah, that sounded pretty natural. Could be a bit more, but I think it's all right. Let's move on with the reverb. After I showed my student this technique, he got back to me telling me he did a 20-minute scene in 4 hours instead of 8, and the results were better and it was way less stress for him. More importantly, he understood why this is a better approach, and that actually separates professionals from enthusiasts. So here's my question for you. What is your most complex plugin chain that you've built in order to create that sonic depth? Was it 5 plugins, 10 plugins, 15 plugins, 20 plugins? Let me know in the comments. If you want to go deeper on recording techniques that enable you to record impact sounds and Foley-esque material in your edit suite or home studio environment, then consider joining the Foley Guild, because I'm teaching that there for audio professionals only. And ideally, you also want to build a personal brand around your career and persona as an audio professional. And that is something I'm really passionate to help you with as well, because I kind of doing this and it really works for me. So that's the Foley Guild. I'm welcoming you in my DMs on Instagram, helping you out with questions. And you can also watch one of the next videos. See you in there. Peace, the Foley teacher.